the Daft Souls podcast. It's episode number 50. We've done 50 episodes of this flipping podcast. And I, for one, have had enough.
I love how you decorated the place. It's got streamers, balloons everywhere.
I know, right?
The balloons are all like in a presidential election. They're all just in the ceiling. They're waiting to come down.
We've got perspex swans circling the room. It's beautiful. And we're joined today by Jim Trinker.
Yeah, you are indeed. How you doing?
I'm doing very good.
It's been a while since I've been here.
Great to have you back on again. For those of you who don't know, I haven't been listening very long. Jim Trinker is at videogamer.com doing some amazing video stuff. He's probably one of the best video producers in the industry. Producer of The Miller Report. The man behind the meaty magic.
I'm not going to argue with you. No, it's very fun. Thanks for having me back. I'm always every time I do one of these, I'll always walk away from it thinking, nah, fuck that. He's not going to ask me again. And then you usually leave it a good few months until I think, nah, definitely fucked it. And then you spring it on me. So
no, it's always good to have you on, man. I think at the moment because now we're doing Cool Ghosts. For those who listened last time. Me and Quinn's and hopefully more people in the future are now Cool Ghosts, and so Daft Souls is a part of that. It means that we kind of have probably less. It's harder to frequently get the guests in, but on the other hand, it's easier to frequently do a podcast. So it swings around about. But yeah, so what have you been playing lately, Jim?
Stuff like all the stuff that's come out, all the major stuff. You've
been like dipping and dabbing,
doing random videos with other people, getting little shots. So most of the stuff I've been playing, I've been getting like half an hour on, or whatever. But the main thing I've been playing is Mad Max this week.
I desperately want to hear about this because I saw the trailer and went, maybe, and I saw the film and went, maybe the game's going to be good. And now you can officially tell me that the game is...
Alright.
It's alright.
It's alright, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo! Right. Release the balloons.
Drop the mic.
It's really like... I keep saying this, but essentially it's come out at totally the wrong time. And I don't mean the same day as Metal Gear 5, which is a whole other dimension of wrong time.
Okay.
But it would have been a perfect summer drought game. Like... Right. Something that comes out just at the end of February or something, but when things are starting to wind down, and there's nothing for weeks, and everyone plays indie games, and that would have if it had come out at a time when its only competition was like Watch Dogs or something like that, it would have gone down as a Stone Cold classic. But because it's coming out when there's loads of cool stuff coming out, it's going to get buried, and pretty much next to anything else, it's not that great, even though it's really not a bad game either, so I kind of feel bad for it.
I mean, you've seen the movie, I'm guessing.
Fury Roads. No, I haven't.
No. Okay, well
I've seen like the original Mad Max a while back.
If you listen carefully, you can hear the question I was going to ask die underneath. But the original Mad Max, well, I still want to talk about that, because if anyone hasn't seen the original Mad Max, they need to, because it's not what you think.
I loved it. I saw it, and it was not what I expected at all.
It's mad, it's the other kind of mad. He's not just angry; he's genuinely insane.
Yeah, it shook me, that film. It was really, it was not what I was expecting when I watched it. I was expecting an action movie, and it was like, nah.
It's like this avant-garde dream horror piece with the leather outfits and a lot of very questionable sexual themes happening there.
Yeah.
But the new film was a great action film romp, and I guess the problem with movie tie-in games always tends to be that they are very restricted in terms of when the release has to be, and it's often actually when games come out is to coincide with the film going in cinemas. But now they seem to have, with this, I guess Warner knows best. It is a Warner game, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting the fact that Warner now are this sort of media, mega Zord of doing films and games. They must have realised now that actually sometimes having a game coming out alongside a film
takes just a little longer.
Maybe it's better to come out alongside the DVD and Blu-ray, which seems to be what they're doing, right? That's why it's out now, isn't it?
Possibly, yeah.
That gives it, a few more months.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, I wish I'd seen Fury Road before I played it.
Well, if you think it's all right and you haven't seen Fury Road, then it must be all right.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, I was looking forward to the game partially because in the movie there are so many tiny scenes which just are snapshots of fascinating characters.
Yeah.
Like the mayor of Bullet Town and God knows what else, like the weird stalky creatures that lives in the marsh. And the movie just goes, hey, look at this, and you'll never see it again. So I was hoping, Jim, that I'd be able to see all these things in greater detail in the game.
But I think the thing is everything else gets added to the Mad Max kind of pantheon it only loosely fits into that universe, right? So all the films are just in that world with that character, but they're not necessarily tied into the previous one, or it's just another episode in his life. But
sure.
And this is a similar thing. This feels like it's just taken the Mad Max kind of tropes and just done something else with it.
It's another one of the bad times when there wasn't much fuel.
Well, exactly.
Do you play Tom Hardy? I should know this.
No, not at all. No. He plays sort of generic Australian man.
Hang on. Are you actually Mad Max?
Yeah.
Okay, you're just Mad Max as interpreted by a different, cheaper actor.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You're. It's really bizarre, actually, but I don't think it's intended to tie in really to the films at all. Just borrowing the themes, and not even really following through on borrowing the themes very much.
Really,
although it's interestingly, the fact that he's mad, but he's not angry mad. He's
just broken.
Yes, yeah, that is very much part of it. The fact that he's talking about finding paradise and whatever. That's in there, but then you're still walking around battering people. So it's like they pay lip service to what the character's kind of supposed to be, but then you are just.
I saw a tweet today, so I can't even credit to who it was because it was proper just skimming. But they were like sort of about Mad Max being like, oh, fuel is really precious in this place, and then just revs up a chainsaw.
Yeah.
It's like,
and there's so many bits where the only way to get into a door is to blow up a fuel canister next to it. It'd be the equivalent of a door that you can only get into by setting fire to £1 million.
I should say as well that when I first saw the original Mad Max movie, me and my friend were drinking, and we said we would drink every time Max was mad because we hadn't seen it before, and we were so confused as to when to drink for the whole movie. But because in the movies, Mad Max is just kind of trying to have a nice life, like in whatever form that takes. So in the game, why are you taking the fight to all these bad guys?
This is the other thing. This is actually something I love about the game. A little bit spoilery, but this happens right at the start of the game. This is the establishing
micro spoiler.
Yeah. So right at the start of the game, your car gets nicked, and you get left for dead. So the rest of the game is all about firstly getting your car back, and then I need to build a car. So
why does he need to build a car?
Because he doesn't have a car anymore.
Oh, so he needs to build a car to get a car, to get his car.
Well, I don't want to spoil. I don't know. I'm so
cars are involved.
There's cars.
Cars are involved, but essentially he finds himself in a situation where he needs a new car. And he's like, I don't just need any car. I need the best car.
Obviously, because he's a man.
Exactly. He befriends this little mechanic dude who's like, I know how to build cars. And they go off on this adventure to both kind of liberate the wasteland from a local warlord, and while they're doing it, collect all the bits they need to make a really cool car.
Man, there's one sentence in that which is liberate the wasteland from a warlord. But if you hadn't said that, that would have been a really nice game of you just want a car. There's a friend who knows how to build it.
Yeah.
You're going around collecting parts.
On a journey. On an adventure.
Maybe at the end of the summer you drive your car to Manchester and you have a really nice night. I'd play that game.
It could have been so different.
But I mean, the classic. It's kind of getting into boring mechanical terms now. But what's the?
I like mechanics. I really like mechanics.
What's the kind of gameplay loop like? Is it just is it traditional kind of Assassin's Creed, almost expanding map, going around unfolding stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything feeds into building up this car, right? So that's your kind of upgrade hook. So everything you do earns scrap or whatever, or you're collecting bits, or everything you're doing in the game feeds into
the car,
doing things you need to get the car.
That's pretty cool.
Looking better and being better and whatever. So that's just and you really go down the rabbit hole with it. So you're working on collecting something so you can upgrade this. So when you've got that, you can get the other thing to upgrade the other. And,
is it like Zelda? Is it the car needs to go this fast to drive through this wall? Is that how do you gate a car? How does
this is stuff like that? Yeah, there's certain it's a bit Far Cry as well. So you've got the wasteland's got lots of kind of outposts, refineries, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And a big part of the game is going there, scoping them out, and taking everyone out in them and claiming them.
I just find these things exhausting now. Just thinking about them. I don't know what it is. Like,
I think it's open world fatigue, isn't it? Because everything, well, not everything, but so many things are now following that, essentially the Ubisoft open world game pattern. I mentioned before we started recording that it feels like this year's Shadow of Mordor, because Mordor was essentially Assassin's Creed without the cutscenes and stuff. It was very, very stripped down story wise. But it was similar mechanically. It was similar in the way that you progressed, the way you leveled up, the way you discovered new places and whatever. Mad Max is very much like that, except it doesn't have anything like the Nemesis system.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I've been late to the party, but I'm replaying Shadows of Mordor, and the just amazing, wonderful moments where I'm taking on some guy who I know I can kill, and then my quite like literal nemesis shows up and he goes, "Hey!" And it's like, I'm in a boss fight. Are you kidding? And then I have to run away from the first guy because my nemesis has shown up. It's great, and like I really loathed him.
It's a wonderful system. That I mean, what that did was elevate a very mediocre action game to something that
really had heart and personality.
Exactly.
So I just loved how much you went from. I think everybody has this happen to them at one point. How you have one slip up, a minion kills you, and then you think, I'm having none of that. You're a nobody. You try and track them down, kill them. They kill you again, and then before you know it, like the most powerful thing on the map is just some guy who about 3 hours ago was just a grunt. And
it's so funny as well, like just as a video game, because obviously in video games you kill everybody. So of course if an orc kills you, the orcs are like, this guy, holy shit! And then they give him like 14 more belts to wear.
I love it. It's like you get experience when you kill the orcs, and the orcs get experience when they kill you. It's fair.
It's lovely. And the fact that you never have to go after the guys who like these horrible people who become so powerful, but you want to.
Yeah.
Like you could just go and...
It becomes a pride thing. You're like, exactly. I can't take this.
You could completely ignore them to complete the game. Like, I mean, as far as I remember, you're not forced to take down everyone.
But my God, you want to. Which is a shame, because then you kill them and then you've killed the most personality-rich element in the entire video game.
I remember feeling a pang of sadness with one of my nemesis in that game. Like, it was like, I think it was maybe the 8th time I'd fought the guy, and it was like you're going down this time, because, I'd defeated him before and he'd come back with just like a plate in his head where it killed him. Yeah, exactly. And he was very annoyed at me for.
they tend to be quite livid, with you murdering him.
Yeah. So you took my eye out, so I'm gonna take your
balls.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably. Has got amazing dialogue, that game.
The orcs are funny.
They're so brilliantly characterized.
So this is what I'm saying. Like I said before we started recording the podcast that I just from like a 1 minute skim of the response to Mad Max, I don't think I'm going to pick it up, because it doesn't seem to have that humour or the heart that was in Shadow of Mordor and was in Fury Road. Like it actually seems a little plain.
Yes, I think plain's probably the best way to describe it.
It's quite telling that I've seen on Steam, the main image for it is like half of the image is just a picture of the kind of like Happy Shopper Max, which is in the game, and then the other half of the image is just a screenshot from the film.
Oh, really?
Furiosa and Tom Hardy in the car, and it's kind of like... I think they kind of know that there's nothing in the game which has enough character to outshine.
My God, Jim, you should see that movie. It's
really,
really good.
I think I'm going to buy the Blu-ray this week. I can't really...
You'll have a great time.
Yeah. I can't really play this without watching that film either.
I get the impression that the making of stuff and the behind the scenes thing for that film would be fantastic as well, because they did so much of it for real.
Like, there was a lovely thing because who's the girl who plays Furiosa? I forget her name. Charlize Theron was apparently like really quite miffed at Tom Hardy because he's method, and so for however many days or weeks or months they have to sit in the truck of a cab in the cab of a truck together. He was just silent. He was mad. He was angry. He was in character as Mad Max. Bless him for taking a role that dumb so seriously, but like. But and then she just can't talk to him. Like, they've got 2 hours for the cameras to set up, but he's Mad Max.
And then she just steals the film anyway.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what he's doing.
She's sitting there smoking, like Are you going to keep this up? Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I know. And like, that's funny for the first day, but like, I'm sure.
And then the director shouts action and she fucking,
I had a feeling that film, I kind of knew that film was going to be great when I read a few, like a month before or something, that they called time on it at one point. Basically, they've run out of money, but they were all filming in the desert and they basically called up and said, you've got to stop, you've got to come back because you've run out of money. And they just didn't. And they just carried on filming because it wasn't done. And that's something that used to happen a lot in like the movies back in the day, especially when people were like not filming in Hollywood because you couldn't just come and pull the plug. Yeah. It's like when they're out in Africa or whatever, it's like, well, what do we do?
It's like, come home, you don't have any money, and then you say, you'll find us some money, because otherwise you're going to jail for the debt that we run up.
That's exactly it. And so I kind of thought, this is going to be good.
Do you know that the stunt actors for Tom Hardy and Furiosa, Charlize Theron, fell in love during that movie and are now an item, which is just so good.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is.
Even though the real actors didn't really get on very well.
Yeah.
So that's fun. So I mean,
I don't think any love happened when they were making the game Mad Max, to be honest.
No, that was a fucking amazing segue back to the game.
I heard that everyone in the studio is now married.
Together as well.
It's this really big marriage.
It's in Sweden, and so they can do anything they want in Sweden.
It's completely illegal. There's like 500 of them. It's crazy.
I'd be very surprised if any romance happened off the back of making this. But no, I feel bad for it because it's not a bad game.
Sure.
And I think if it had come at a different time,
and it probably was at least a little rushed to get out of the film and everything.
Exactly, and I think if it was, as I say, if it was a summer drought game, if it didn't have really good competition right now. Even if it had come out at the start of the gen, obviously that's asking a bit much because it probably was in really early stages back then. But you know what I mean? Like it just feels like it's come out at the completely the wrong place in history, not just the wrong time of the year.
I feel this is also like a big problem with the current state of things and the fact that these games, they ask a lot of you. They don't just ask a lot of you in terms of like money, in terms of being like, and in terms of like your overall time of being like, well, there's other big games out, I could buy them and play them instead. It's the fact that you jump into these kind of mediocre filler games and then they're like, like drive around our mediocre game for like 60 hours. It's like,
exactly.
You kind of, it's one of these.
Do you remember when games were like 6 hours long?
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, I actually really used to love that era on the PlayStation 2 where you could basically go and buy some kind of crap game for a tenner and be done with it in about 8 hours, and be like, that wasn't very good, but never get to the point where you resented it. I don't know, it's just weird. It's like, if it was a kind of mediocre Mad Max game that was maybe a bit cheaper, maybe you'd be done in like 8 hours.
Man,
I'd be up for that.
You've got to wonder how the numbers came down that this is the correct thing to do, because like it's a known fact that something like 80% of anyone who buys a game will not play more than like 2 hours of it, like according to the stats. Like something like 90% of people who played Mass Effect never changed the selected soldier by default. Like, I'm pulling these stats out my arse, but they're the general inclination. So like, who is it that's playing these games for 100? Who is it who's collecting 100 flags in Assassin's Creed that is making Ubisoft go, yep, this makes sense, all devs, you have to do it?
I don't know.
They wouldn't be asking if it didn't make sense,
maybe
like,
it's
economically.
Just kids. I don't know.
Maybe it is kids. Maybe it's like, everyone's going to buy Assassin's Creed, and then also the 20% of people who do play most of it are mostly kids.
Or maybe it's just a value thing of people don't have a lot of money, so they can only buy one game and they can keep them busy for like
I think
a
that's
long
probably
time.
Closer to it, because I mean, when we were kids, like you'd have like, I mean, I can't remember how many times I played Streets of Rage because when I was a kid, I didn't have my own money, and that was one of the few games I had. So I had that game for years and played it over and over again. And I can imagine someone a similar age now having something like Assassin's Creed and just 100%ing it because it's just one of 3 games they've got, and a new game only comes along every Christmas.
But what I find funny is it used to be that, like, if you had something, that you buy games that were so good that you could just keep completing them again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Whereas now it just feels like they're just big.
Well, you know what? Ubisoft know for sure they can fill a game with content. They don't know for sure that they can create a game that's good enough to keep playing it.
I guess that's the thing, and it's kind of crazy. It's like, it's just a bit of a shame, I guess, in the fact that, it was different.
You know what? It's totally the same as is happening in Hollywood now. Like, where due to the economic climate, like movies are made by committee, so they're going to be average. And by God, they're going to be average, but they're not going to be bad. They're not going to be good, but they'll be average. Like the amount of superhero films that have come out where they're written by 14 people, and there's like flat joke, flat action sequence, flat joke, flat action sequence, flat romance.
I think that's it. I think it's just at the moment that kind of open world Ubisoft style thing is just flat. I don't dislike it in any way. I just find it makes me feel a bit tired.
It definitely feels safe.
But I don't. It's like everyone kind of likes it. It's kind of enjoyable. I just find it a bit. It's not very inspiring. And actually, funnily enough, I was playing some Satellite Rain. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
That was a purposeful prod of my knee.
Prod you on the knee.
I'm sorry, Matthew. Yeah. Satellite Rain. No,
Satellite Rain. I've played it for about 10 hours. I really like it.
If people haven't seen, I did a lengthy video about how it's a very interesting RTS. If you Google Cool Ghosts Satellite Rain, you'll find that.
And it is a really cool RTS. I like the fact that it is all live. You can't pause. You have to just make decisions on the fly. It's quite exciting, but at the same time, like, you know, you can soak up a lot of bullets and so can enemies. So actually, you do have the time.
You do have a few seconds.
Quite audacious things. You can be like, okay, well, you go and do this. You do this. You do this, and you can execute these amazing emergency plans. And that's when the game really shines. But it still has that. And I realised as I started playing it and unlocked the second area and moved into it, it's like, oh, this is just another kind of Assassin's Creedy thing of go around the map,
where there are so many
get
things
all the
to
nodes, do the things, and it's like it is an open world, but rather than having an open world that feels dynamic and alive, it's like, well, you've robbed the bank, so I guess the next bank we'll rob and get loads of money will be the bank in the next area. Like, and it's a bit like it's not offensive in any way. It's not me playing this and going, oh, but it's just like.
It's a sign of the times.
It's just not.
It's interesting.
Something else.
It's funny, you know, that they remade Syndicate. Well, they made a Syndicate-inspired game.
Yeah.
But they made it in 2015, and what does that mean? Well, it means a big open world with lots of stuff to do over and over again.
Yeah,
which
like,
is interesting.
Completionism and ticking off boxes, and I get that, and it's quite nice. But it's weird that it's not really much like a Syndicate game. It actually reminds me a lot more of Commandos.
Yeah, sure, because you have like special abilities and there's more of a focus on stealth rather than
rather than like building a squad from scratch and choosing what they can all do. You have like these 4 archetypes that all work together, and there's the clear kind of Commando style thing as well of, because you don't have to build a squad, some of them are just better than others. Like some of them are just like your heroes. And the ones
the guy with the katana and cloak.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I got a thing on the guy with the mostly a lady on mine, but with a katana and cloak who could go on zip lines so that she could hack as well. She got a device so she could basically hack by proxy. So whatever the hacker could hack, she could hack. And so then the game just became the adventures of Lady with a Sword.
But don't you have to get different members of the squad in to the...
No, and actually, this is my problem with Satellite
you do
Rain.
To get all the rewards.
Sometimes you do, yeah. Sometimes there are specific rewards where you need to get those people in, but a lot of the time, and this was something that kind of I played it for about 10 hours. It's very slick. It's very nice, but there were 2 things in the game which really bothered me, and it kind of just stop it from being like really magical.
Yeah, sure.
The first thing is there's very little sense of menace for a game that's supposed to be like a kind of futuristic cyberpunk thing.
Yeah.
Whenever you get caught by the police, you just go, fuck off. It's like swat the flies. You're like, am I going to kill them or am I just going to walk away? And they do such an ineffective job of chasing you that you can just run around the corner and they go, it's under control. And it's like, it's not under control, mate. Especially because it has this awesome intro to the game where it shows you all this news footage of like, basically, over a period of years, corporations taking over the government almost. And it's like, this is really cool. And it gives you the sense of you're walking into this really corporate, oppressive world. But then, even at the start of the game, always what I loved about Syndicate Wars, even though it was fucking impossible to play, because it was so hard, it just dicked on you so quickly if you did something wrong. Yeah. When the police all turned up, they killed you. Because,
yeah.
You know what, you were the underdogs, and maybe later in the game you'd be superhumans.
Underdog is the word. Like, the game sets you up as an underdog. You are 4 people taking down a corporation. In practice, you're the only 4 talented people in the world.
Yeah. And it's just a bit of a shame, the fact that you really, like, at first it made me tense, but it was like, often it was like, oh, I've been seen again. And you just basically have to just right-click and be like, yeah, just run. Come on, just get out. Well, just run.
I reckon we should definitely talk about a game where you can get seen and it turns into a clusterfuck, which is Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah.
My God, the stealth in that game. I was expecting that game to be interesting. I was expecting it to be technically brilliant. I was expecting it to be weird. I was not expecting it to be like my favourite stealth game of the year. Like, in terms of just infiltrating compounds, dudes, seeing dudes, panicking.
I mean, we won't talk about it much because we'll probably talk about it more next week.
Oh, yeah? Oh, of course.
But I have played, like, again, like about an hour and a half. I should have known, but I love the fact the first hour is like just watching stuff. And that's fine. Like, I think that what it's reminded me of is, although at one point it was like, this is ridiculous, I won't spoil it, but there's a bit in the first like 20 minutes which I will always think of in my mind as being the Magikarp section, which when you play the game, you'll probably go, oh, all right, yeah, I get that. But it's fine. And I think the problem is, like, I always want to think about Metal Gear Solid, I always get wrapped up in thinking about the impossible to follow network's plot and the just general gratuitous nature of the game, both in terms of violence and sexual content. But I always forget that actually both of those things aren't really the core of the games. And when you're actually
most of the time it's tactical espionage action.
Yeah, and that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's so weird that the people in games who do like stealth this well and this like technically amazing also just have the weirdest wrapper around it.
Yeah,
like that MGS is always like at the front of like two different pushing two different envelopes at once.
It keeps it interesting though, actually. It reminded me why I do like playing Metal Gear games, and the fact that after like a kind of quite lengthy prologue section, it then ended with a set piece, which I won't mention at all, but the set piece was just like it was like, yeah, all right, fine, this is awesome.
You've sold me again.
You sold me. And I do like that it can do all of this kind of really detailed, almost quite serious stealth planning tactical stuff, and then just go left field as hell and be like, this is properly weird.
Your reward for, I don't think you've got to it yet, but your reward for like completing your first mission in it, it's like, did you enjoy being a soldier? Right. Here's a curveball that will take your head off. Like,
I'm really looking forward to it. I like installed it today. I played a bit of it, and I really, really liked it. It reminded me, because it's weird, because in my head, Metal Gear has now become this thing that I feel a bit like ambivalent about in my head. And it reminded me playing this today that I bought a PlayStation 2 way back when for Metal Gear Solid 2, and I played it on launch day. Or not, I think it was like around launch day on my birthday, and I just played it and I loved it. And I was so in love with Metal Gear Solid 2. I completed it like so many times. And it reminded me playing this, it was like, fuck, I remember why I like this.
Yeah, and I'm curious to think, like, because we've now gushed about it. How did you feel, Jim? How did you feel? Did you play MGS5?
Yeah. I played about an hour and a half again.
Same as us, yeah.
Because I was purely just recording videos and stuff about it. And
it's just a job. Hate games.
Yeah.
Hate them.
Yeah. It's not for me, really. The first thing I saw was funnily enough, the opening. And I just remember thinking that it was probably one of the best openings to any game I've ever seen. Like,
yeah.
It was, you
Do you mean like the opening, like sort of 3-4 minutes, or the opening prologue?
The whole opening, like the whole thing. Because I watched someone play through it, and that first 4 minutes when you've got that mid-year version of Man Who Sold the World, which is incredible, which is amazing. I'd never heard that version before.
Not heard it?
No, I'd never heard that version before. I didn't even know it existed. I was like, this is amazing.
I had a thing when because I was playing that with my girlfriend, and I asked, is this like the first time in a Sony IP we've just had a pop song? Like, is this the first, like, because movies do this all the time, but video games don't just buy, licensed music. They don't feature that.
It does happen from time to time.
I couldn't remember when it happened.
Unless it's something like GTA, but it's usually very incidental in GTA, obviously, because it's just on the radio.
Yeah.
But to actually sort of fade up.
I think the Wolfenstein game did it a bit. Maybe.
Did it? Yeah.
I don't remember, but I do love that. It did make me think. I was just sitting here being like, why doesn't every video game start with a David Bowie song? Like, I cannot think of a single video game which would not be incrementally improved. Like, play me Bowie. Hey!
Video games work so hard at being like, cool and having very cool sequences.
What's
and
cooler than David Bowie?
What's cooler than music?
Nah, David Bowie.
Well, okay, you've got me there. But yeah, no, it's amazing. It's quite the...
and you would, because of the situation that the character is in at that point.
I mean, we can probably say, because the game starts with you in a hospital.
He's in a hospital bed, and your vision's all fucked, and but that's like I loved that version of the song instantly, because I was like, even though if I'd heard it in any other context, I probably thought that's fucking terrible. That is the worst version of that song I've ever heard. But in that context, it is the best, and it was like. I can imagine, because he's meant to have been in a coma for like 9 years or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, imagine you were in a coma, you got knocked out, and you weren't in the 80s, and you wake up 10 years later, and the 80s is happening. That's exactly how confused you would be. You'd be like, I think that's a David Bowie song, but it sounds fucking terrible. There's so many reasons why that was the perfect thing to fade up on in that character situation at that point. It was amazing.
God.
But there was... but yeah, and it just felt like it had all the money spent on it, but not in a sort of cynical way. It was like somebody who knows what they're doing has spent all the money.
This is the thing. I've been kind of unimpressed by bleeding edge tech in so many games, but there's something about the Metal Gear Solid series, and I guess maybe Kojima steering it, that the tech that happens in those games is always done in such a way that you notice individual things. Like it shows you quite early on Snake crawling, but he doesn't have a shirt on, and it's the first game where I've seen muscles in a back move, like the bump mapping, or maybe even the three-dimensional texture, like moving physically. Yeah. Also, when you run or you're on the horse, they've modelled the sound of air rushing past your ears.
Really?
I can't, but yeah, I noticed that. It's like, hang on, wait. And then, as soon as they've figured out the speed at which when you're running, you hear that, and it's in the game. Like, all these things, they always do it, and it always cheers me up. Like, I remember in MGS2, this is so stupid, but you could shoot a fridge, and then you could see the inside of the fridge. If you shot the ice cube tray, the ice cubes fell out, and then the ice cubes would melt.
Well, that's why I spent so much time in Metal Gear Solid.
Because of the ice cubes.
It was just purely ice.
You just went about the kitchen sort of breaking utensils to see what was happening.
You could shoot the pans, they made a gonging noise and would swing.
It was just this, MGS2 got a lot of stick, and I think it was brilliant. And I think one of the reasons it was brilliant is the fact that it felt like a big sandpit, but it was a linear sandpit. But every element of the game had so much detail into it, and so many little things that you play through it again and again, trying to beat these time records, and because it had this obscure thing where you could upload your times online using a code, and you could see how good you were in the world. It was quite cool at the time for a PlayStation 2 thing. But basically, it meant that you do all this, but then you become quite intimately aware of how the game worked together and how the levels worked and what guards would react in what ways. But then people started to discover all these little really specific things that you could do, and there was so much detail to the way you could manipulate the world and the way that certain guards would do weird things if you did things in certain ways. And now playing 5 and just seeing Metal Gear as it kind of always you imagined it being at its best, of having this massive open thing and just being able to use all of these tools in this fantastic sandpit. I think it's just blowing my mind, and I think at first I got really a bit frustrated in the prologue of doing that kind of Call of Duty thing of having to wait for your man to come and open the door for you. But at the same time, it's like, but I don't mind because this is going to end. Whereas I think what I hate about it in games like Call of Duty is you go, this is the game. The whole game is wait for the man to open the door.
Kojima's always teased that. In 2, even in 1, when they didn't show you Snake's face. Or in 2, when you don't know if it's Snake on the bridge as he approaches the oil tanker, and they drag that out and they tease it. And he teases you not because of gating, not because he's an idiot, but because he knows how much you want to be in control, how long you've been waiting for this. It's been 7 years before since MGS4.
Wow,
7
that
years.
long.
Yeah, people have been waiting. So I know this because my girlfriend was immediately like, wait, he's been in a coma 9 years? Check, because she thought that maybe he'd been in a coma for exactly as long as it had been between MGS games. But that's not the case. But yeah, no, it's 7 years of waiting, and he wants to tease you, wants to lead you to it gently. He doesn't want it to just start main menu. Okay, here's Snake. Here's everything we've been working on for 7 years.
Yeah, no, it's true, and I think actually I didn't get on with 4 very well because it felt like to me
4 was unquestionable. 4 made me not into an MGS fan anymore.
Yeah, I think it was the same with me. I got halfway through, I just got bored because it felt like it was just fan service in terms of plot.
Well, he was trying to wrap everything up, right?
Yeah, it was like a barrage of characters, and the actual stealth sections, the actual stealth bits, felt a bit overcomplicated and boxy. It didn't feel, I don't know. And also the fact that I quickly realised in 4 that you could just, whenever you got seen, the best thing to do was just to sprint to the exit of the area, and then it would play a little cutscene, and you were constantly being chased by an army of people who then would just forget when you're in a new area.
Yeah.
It really showed the limitations of having zone-based stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited to play around with this more. But yeah, well, I guess we'll talk about.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about this for long.
Yeah,
and now we just.
Well,
did.
that's the thing, is it's just exciting, and I'd forgotten why it was exciting.
I think this is the one. I think I've been trying to properly get into Metal Gear for so long. I've got every game, and I've really, really, really tried to get into starting with, The first one's just fucking too old for me now. Like,
because some of the remakes are quite good.
I wasn't around at the time. I got the HD collection, so I tried. I was like, right, I'll jump in with 2.
That's still the deep end, believe it or not.
It's like, oh, this is fucking.
I tell you, the plot in the first one is still probably the best. The first game's plot is genuinely really cool.
Yeah.
It's just
the first one. There's so much. I tried to put myself into the mind of somebody who was playing this in the 90s and must have been blown away. And then like the third one was I got a little bit more into, but like this is the one. Like instantly I was into this, and I was like, this is. Burns describe it as the best Far Cry game that has ever been made and will ever be made. And the sort of the meat and potatoes of the gameplay is very much that. And I just Wikipedia'd everything until I figured, right, I think I know just what's going on.
You don't even... you don't need to know everything. It's like...
It's kind of like, I didn't really know what was going on when I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2 when it first came out, but it didn't matter.
Yeah, I feel like I need to put the yards in though,
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're not going to have a worse experience.
Yeah.
I'm just really excited to explore the world though. I think one of my biggest problems with these big open world games go around tick the boxes is that it feels like often the world is just a means to have like lots of things. It's a means for space, for long-term game, where there's very few games of having these worlds where the worlds themselves like justify your exploration, your time in them. I think Red Dead Redemption is probably one of the only games that's done that for me. I didn't care about the fact that I was going to be able to get a new horse in this area. It was just discovering a new canyon and being like, whoa, this is amazing.
Yeah, when you have that horrible set piece and you go down you ride the raft to Mexico, and then you get off the raft, and there's a game that again uses music exceptionally well.
Yeah.
You arrive in Mexico and you're like, oh, I've made it, and then you realise you're in fucking Mexico and it's a weird alien land and you don't speak the language, and it's the landscapes are this like the color grading turns into this dusky grey, and you're made very nervous. It's almost like arriving on the moon, except it's Mexico.
So cool. So yeah, we're all like haven't really played it, but we're all really excited about playing it, which is cool.
We've all just dibbled our toes into.
Finally, to dip back really briefly to Satellite Rain, and I don't know if there's it really bothers me because it just seems like such a ridiculous loophole. But you can take over people. You can basically like indoctrinate people and have them.
Yeah.
Like it just ruins so many of the puzzles because you start to have these puzzles where it's like, well, to get through this security door, you need to deactivate these 3 power things which are on different sides of the base. So you have to switch off this power source, then switch off this power source, and so you basically think, you have to do this synchronized thing where 3 agents all switch it off and then one person walks through the door. Classic. But if you just like make one of the guards on your team by indoctrinating him, guards can walk through all security doors. So you basically just have a guy and then you just get him to walk through the door and then get the other people to follow him through. And it just like, there's so much of the puzzle of that game.
That does sound like a puzzle that you're describing rather than...
No, but it works every time. Like, it's not like... It has all these different things that require different solutions, and every time you just go, nope, that's not the solution. The solution is walk in with one of their men next to me. And it doesn't appear to be. Maybe in the second area and third area it starts to do things so you can't do that, but it's just, it's ruined the game for me because it means that like every time I have a puzzle, I never look at it and go, how do I solve this? I just go, I solve it in exactly the same way that I solve other things. Also, you can just get the men, you take over a man, you get him to shoot a generator, and then everyone runs in to go, who the fuck's been shooting guns? And then you just, as long as you stop shooting the generator before they arrive, you basically can get all of the men in a base to run to one place because they heard gunshots.
Yeah.
And then when they turn up, they just hang around there for a few minutes. They're like the worst organised army in the world. This huge army base.
Yeah.
Like,
again,
where is everyone? There was a noise over there.
Back to their desks and their iPhones gone. You're like, yeah.
It is actually that. You are stealing some small shit.
I think it's just one of those annoying things when you're effectively playing a puzzle game. If there are like loopholes that just break the puzzles, you can't help but use them. It's like as soon as you know they're there. So hopefully they're going to like realise that and maybe patch it and go, oh, people are breaking our game.
I mean, it's it does seem like a game that you're trying to break, but clearly not to this degree.
Providing you can't break it in the same way again and again.
Yeah,
and
there
again
you go.
again.
There you go. You know what? And speaking of which, in I just saw a tweet earlier today that in a tips article. God knows why I clicked on this, but it's one of the things in MGS5 is guards will adapt based on what you do. So if you are using the tranq rifle for the whole game, then they'll start wearing helmets and that kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, supposedly. So different playstyles will cause guards to adapt in different ways across the course of the game.
So if you start using loads of guns, then they'll just be nasty.
More heavily armed, and I guess, yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah, we're gonna go home. We're gonna play it. If we do some questions, then after that, I'll be ready to go home.
I mean, I was going to talk a little bit about Big Pharma, but I won't bother. I'm going to be making a video. That video will be up this Thursday. It should be good fun. So I won't talk about it now.
Big fun.
Then. Big fun. Ba-ba-da-ba. That's
what
the
they should have called
window.
that game, because curing warts and I made a really complicated female contraceptive. And I was losing money on it. It was really bad.
That's actually, I will say briefly, the one thing I do like about Big Pharma, the point where it clicked for me was the fact that you just think it gives you all the means to like make perfect drugs and be like, yeah, you know, you've got this amazing migraine pill, but it does, you know, make people feel ill. And you think, well, that's bad. So you spend all this money making machines to remove that. So you're like, hey, I've made something that perfectly treats migraines and there are no bad side effects. And it's like, yeah, but you're not making any money now. In fact, you're losing lots of money because you can't sell it for more. So it's just this thing of you start to realise where you just make drugs and be like, yeah, it's
good
like,
enough.
Yeah, it'll cure your cancer, but you're going to feel really ill. I'm going to make loads of money, so I don't care. And it's like, when I started playing the game, I was like, I was hoping it'd be more like satire. And it's like, it doesn't need to be satire. It is just a terrifying representation of the actual world.
That's why, well, he made Democracy as well, right? That was that BattleTech?
It may have been, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought so. But
so,
yeah.
It's making me an evil person.
He didn't
basically.
make the concept of Democracy. The
wait, what?
The video game of about...
That'd be a claim to fame, wouldn't it?
Inventing democracy.
So, yes.
Yes, it would.
Yes, it would. Let's just say yes. So, let's go for this.
Shall I fill the podcast with filler while Matt selects?
Mr. Bacuraptor
The question.
asks, what do you think devs can do to mitigate the problems of early access or consumer involvement in the development process?
Wait, what are the problems with early access?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess...
early access is awesome. It's produced like some of my favourite games of the last 2 years.
I guess that's the thing, is the question is not actually... We're going to change your question.
Sorry.
To a different one. Because I think that's the problem, is if you're going into it and you're worried that early access is going to be a problem for your game, and you're worried that consumer involvement in the development process is going to affect your game in a bad way, then you shouldn't do early access.
I mean, yeah, it's true that the games that I've seen that I like who do early access spend a lot of time and energy communicating with their fans, tweaking and changing and tweaking, like obviously Nuclear Throne, Darkest Dungeon, those people talking a lot about it. But yeah, no, I mean, the only...
we saw the thing that we talked about really briefly last time, the fact that Darkest Dungeon has had a bit of backlash in some of the changes. I guess the only important thing is you need to make sure that mechanically your
Darkest
game
Dungeon has also made scads of money.
Oh, I know, yeah.
So, like, I don't even know if it's a real
now,
problem for them. It's like, it's more like a speed bump on a truck.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, that could be really bad, because if you're going fast, you fly into the air.
Do a cool jump, though. You could do an awesome jump.
There you go.
So it's fine.
Darkest Dungeon is officially the Excite truck of early access games.
Luke Summerhays asks, do you ever feel bad about killing the Monster Hunter monsters? And can you imagine a less lethal game that would suit them? You know, I don't. We get this a lot. People being like, do you not think it's like... Does it raise interesting thoughts about hunting?
And it's Monster Hunter?
Yeah.
It's the opposite of raising interesting thoughts about hunting, yeah.
It's like, rather than making me think, hunting's bad, it makes me think, hunting would be okay in the real world if it was like Monster Hunter. If these twats who went out to Africa with guns were at serious constant risk of being torn apart by dinosaurs.
If someone was taking on, like, the last rhino or was having to do it doing sideways rolls, mostly just through sideways rolls over and over again.
Yeah, and then dying because they didn't make it. Yeah, fair enough.
Or because they were hungry.
That's the thing, is it's not really a proper allegory for real hunting, because real hunting is mostly just people with massive scopes and rifles not being at risk at all.
Often sitting in an armoured fucking car.
Yeah.
Like,
Whereas, like, in Monster Hunter, like, one wrong move and you're dead. So it's more like obviously it's sad at the end of it. You have to chop them up for
do they
pits.
think people are running up to lines with machetes and shit? They're just shooting it from a quarter of a mile away.
I wouldn't support that, but I'd have more time for that than the latter.
I mean, this is what I'm thinking, like, because all three of us have had the instinctive response of it's bullshit that they have high-powered rifles and they drive up to the animal. Why does that make it worse? Like, if a man went and killed the last rhino with his bare hands, is that any morally more like there was more chance of him dying, but he still didn't, and he still killed the defenseless
Well, no,
animal?
but it'd still be bad that he killed the last rhino, but you could at least admire the technique.
Sure, I guess.
And also,
I think there's nothing to admire about somebody picking off a defenseless animal. From
the other important
we can agree with that.
The other important thing is that the last rhino is probably like just chilling out. like just trying to like be sad, probably a bit melancholic in a desert or something.
Yeah.
Whereas
actually he's under 24-hour armed guard. I'm not making this up because the people would go for the ivory.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Especially the last ivory on the planet. It's worth like unfathomable amounts of money. So to be guarded 24 hours.
So, but the thing is, in Monster Hunter, it's often you're killing these fucking dragons that are literally coming and like burning villages and stuff. And obviously, it's usually because of something sad that's happening in the ecosystem. But it's still, if the last rhino was just going around cities destroying buildings all the time, then it'd be like, well, yeah, can somebody go out and? I mean, it's sad, but we have to deal with it.
You know what else? Monster Hunter has these like super morose death animations where you kill something after 45 minutes and then it screams and it curls up and it dies, but the instant that animation starts,
pack it up.
You also get like tubers and horns being like, yay! So it doesn't really leave much room to feel sad, especially not because, as Matt says, you only have 25 seconds to carve up the dude.
I don't know, I mean, it's still bad, but I guess it's more of a fight, isn't it? That's the thing, it's like rather than being, I think it's that classic human thing of it, at least it was a fair fight, of being like, all right, well, if you want to go and kill this rhino, then we're going to strap loads of swords to it, and we're going to make it fire guns. Yeah. And now you can have a go, because at least it's fair, you know?
Yeah.
No one likes it. I think it just comes down to this idea of bullying, really, isn't it? It's like...
Yeah, it comes back... Well, you know, like, humans can handle everything except unfairness, and it's definitely unfair to shoot at it.
It's pointless and cruel, whereas Monster Hunter is A, not real.
B, awesome.
Awesome, yeah. That's.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
It's a complex issue, but I think we've nailed it.
Yeah. It's Monster Hunter is sort of the only version of hunting that is cool, really, isn't it? So.
And why wouldn't you do that instead of like dicking around with metal guns and hurting things?
$30,000 going to Africa with a sniper rifle.
You get Monster
fucking dentist and you can't get it up.
You can get Monster Hunter for 20 quid.
Yeah.
And you can spend the rest of the money on Viagra.
Yeah.
28 grand's worth, or 29 grand's worth of
That's enough
Viagra.
to kill anyone. Even a rhino.
Oh shit, what if he buys it and then uses it on a rhino and then...
Force feeding a rhino Viagra.
This has turned into fanfic. Right, let's move on.
The Babylon 5 question there, I'm getting intrigued.
A 5 question?
Babylon
5.
Yeah, it's basically asking if Mass Effect would have been improved or ruined if it were allowed to have the Babylon 5 license it clearly wanted.
It would be better.
That's bollocks. That is bollocks. That is suggesting that any science fiction property that attempts to do political intrigue and action is trying to be Babylon 5. It's just trying to be Mass Effect.
It did have a lot of Babylon 5 like themes in it, but
it did, but it also had a lot of Battlestar themes, and like Babylon 5 itself had lots of Lord of the Rings themes, and everything is derivative of everything. I think it's a bit unfair on Mass Effect to go, you just want it to be Babylon 5.
It's true. I do love Mass Effect. Actually, I'm really looking forward to another Mass Effect game. And I just hope that BioWare don't make it boring as fuck.
If they make it like Inquisition, that would be a tragedy.
I'm worried about that because Inquisition was on my list of things to maybe go and have a poke at, but everyone seems to have really fallen out of love with it after a bit of time's passed.
I really enjoyed it, but I got to a certain point with it and I was just like, I'm really bored now.
Why? What did it do?
The Ubisoft did it.
It had the Ubisoft did.
Ubisoft did.
Ubisoft did it.
Oh
no, the Ubisoft there. I don't like. It's annoying. I wish they wouldn't do it with every game because the problem is I like those sorts of games, but you can only play a couple of them a year.
Well,
every game you want to play is another fucking one of them.
I bounced off Pillars of Vitality for the same reason. Like I played that for a bit, and then it went. I pretty much just unlocked the keep, which is what I was racing to get, and it went. Here's a keep, and you can go into the basement. You can go next door to the neighborhood region. You can do this quest and this, and then you could also do this quest. And I went, none of this is interesting. Quite literally, not a single plot thread you put in front of me has actually had like.
I actually really liked a lot of it. I wanted to play more of it.
Why didn't you then?
Well, I haven't had time. I still like to. You just don't gel with that type of writing. I think it's is that those devs you just don't like them.
Oh god, let's not.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's that thing of like I quite like it. I think Jim quite likes it as well, but most people do. You're just weird.
Whatever. Hit me a question.
I quite like it, but I felt like there was too much. There's just far too much. My review of it sits without a score because I do not have the time to finish it. I'm not going to stick a score on it without at least finishing it.
I actually feel like that damaged that game a bit. It felt like the buzz for it died quite quickly and people stopped talking about it because I feel that thing of...
this is the thing. Everyone I talk... like yourself, were talking about how much they liked it and everybody put it down and didn't come back to it. And I think that validates me.
I think it was overwhelmingly big, and I think that back in the day when those sorts of games first happened, that was fine because you wanted something you could play for forever. Because those games only came out like once in a blue moon, really good ones anyway.
Whereas now, we're spoiled for choice.
Now we're spoiled for choice, and it felt like it was good, but then people didn't really feel comfortable with sharing a like kind of proper like you should definitely get this because people hadn't played enough of it. But there was so much to play. Whereas the other one, what was it called? Divinity: Original Sin 2 did really well because the story in that was a bit bobbins, but it was mechanically really fun from the off, and the way that the combat worked was really satisfying. So you could play that for 5 hours and go, yeah, you got to check this out. It's fun because you didn't have to be like, you didn't feel like you had to qualify with that. And it's got a really intriguing story.
There was also a lot. It was also a lot. There was a lot less of it, basically.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say with my mouth. It didn't feel like that. I always keep talking about the rabbit hole, but it didn't feel like that rabbit hole thing. But like Pillars of Eternity is just quests upon quests upon quests. You complete one, and then it starts.
You get three more,
and it's just, it feels like whatever you do, you're never done. But at least with Divinity, I had that to a little extent. Like, as in, you unlock a new town that's got a couple of side quests, but you did feel like you were on pretty much the same trajectory throughout the game.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to do a game like that, then you need to have I think you need to have a main quest that's got a lot of focus to it.
It was hard to work out what the main quest was in my early bits of playing that.
Because nothing was given precedence over anything else.
No, you're like,
what do I hang about with these druid folk, or do I go to the other city, or what do you want me to do?
There's not a central... Like, the game presents you with a mystery at first of, what's this guy doing? And the answer universally is, I don't care. I would like to be given a reason to care, but I don't have one.
I don't know. I'll tell you what, I think it's one of those weird things where maybe as a successful game, it failed a little bit in terms of, like, being something which lots of people play, but I think as a Kickstarter it was perfect because
it did give a lot of people exactly what they asked for.
It was exactly that.
But I would have been back there when the Kickstarter was funded going, you don't want this is from the history.
But I think you're wrong, because I think there are people out there who did want that. I think maybe people
sure, I agree with that, but I don't think it's all my colleagues and like critics who are like, oh, it's great, it's not for me, but it's great. It's like, it's for very few people.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is, they got a number of people who backed it, and I reckon I'd be interested to know, like, if there was a massive chunk of those people who were just thrilled, who maybe people about 10 years older than us who just really got into Baldur's Gate, fallen out of people who, if you're the sort of person who loved those games but fell out of gaming and then just came back just for that game, you have an amazing time with it. Like
Snake coming out of the coma.
I just think it's this thing of being like, if you've got all this choice and you've followed the hobby along with us, it's this difficult thing of, I still love that stuff, but I genuinely find it hard to make the time for it. But it's nice because sometimes, you have people who sell the dream of what games used to be like. Like, look, it's like the opposite of Goddess, of being like, we're going to make you a game like Populous, and then taking the money and then being like, only joking, it's iOS bullshit.
Oh man, Eurogamer did a really great article recently about catching up with the guy who won, what's the game? Curiosity, the Cube game,
where he was the god of Goddess.
Who promised to be a god and goddess, but like, this super bleak interview where they went up and talked to him, and he's like, describe him, and then talking with him saying like, I think they've kind of forgotten about me.
I remember reading that and really loving the way that it was Wes that wrote that.
Yeah,
I think was it. I really loved that it started off with a really, really unflattering description of the man. Like, fucking hell. It was something. I can't remember the exact words, but it was something on the lines of, he turned up and he's in a very tatty raincoat and frankly doesn't look very.
He doesn't look like a god at all. Yeah. But like, I like that because it set the tone of. Also, because the guy later came and like, he didn't seem like a bad guy once you actually read the piece.
Totally.
But like, I love it because it sets the tone of like this, like, for like he's the winner, and then it describes him in this like way. He's just an everyday guy. He's got a tatty raincoat. He doesn't seem like a winner.
He's in a tatty raincoat and he cuts a pathetic figure.
He looks like a prick. Yeah. I can take it. Yeah, but no, it's. I really like that bit of writing, and people should give it a Google.
It was good. It was very good.
Okay, we've got a question from Mark Hadley saying, what are some good games to play with a significant other? So either one player or co-op.
Sorry.
No. I'm gonna throw in a board game recommendation here because it's the best board game ever to play in a couple ever. Give this a Google. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. It's a game where you solve mysteries. Like, couples will often watch murder mysteries together. It's that, but you solve a murder mystery. You race Sherlock to solve a thing. You argue about how a crime could be done, and they're like 10 incredible puzzles. And just every time I go to a convention, every time someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, I got this. I play this with my wife and my girlfriend, and thank you because it's like the most astonishingly awesome thing." That's about 30 quid, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So give that a shot. Failing that, Helldivers, and just scream at each other.
Oh no, that would ruin lives, man.
People in our comments on Cool Ghosts have been saying,
they've been saying, "I'm going to play it with my partner." And it's like you're going to.
No one's come back. No one said. Yeah, no.
They're dead. So
I was just going to suggest Until Dawn.
Yeah, you were saying that's what you were saying earlier. That was cracking.
It's fucking brilliant.
What's that?
It's brilliant, and it has no right to be. It is so
right,
good.
I'm staring us out of the question zone. We're done. Tell us about Until Dawn. I'm not a big horror game player. Don't apologise.
Neither am I.
Oh, interesting.
What Until Dawn is the Quantic Dream game that would happen if David Cage fucking reined it in a bit.
Yeah?
And actually just made a good game instead of making a sort of good game that's very bollocks.
That's the best description of David Cage I've ever heard.
It's a good game, but it's very bollocks.
Oh, that makes some kind of sense because I've loved all of David Cage's games apart from the one with David Bowie, and I never played that one.
Oh, the bad one.
Yeah, but
I remember that.
everything from Fahrenheit onwards, even the last one he did with Alan Page. Like,
wait, what were you talking about then? Because I thought
I was talking about the David Bowie.
The David Bowie one was like
it was on the Dreamcast. It was
it was on PC
Fahrenheit.
as well.
It was no. It was called.
I'm gonna Google it.
I played
crap.
the demo.
Outcasts?
No.
Nomad Soul.
Nomad Soul, was it?
I think it was Nomad Soul.
I thought you guys were
Was
using
it Omicron or something like
Omicron
that?
Nomad Soul.
It was one of those games like they're always bad, aren't they? Whenever you have games that have like really weird like 2-part names.
Omicron the Nomad Soul.
Yeah,
we got there in the end.
9 out of 10 from on Steam there.
David Bowie's face in it.
8.5.
People at home, if you've not heard of Omicron the Nomad Soul, go to YouTube and look up the trailer, and you'll have quite a time. And that
The
really
souls here are grey and withered. You can't get much power from them, says David Bowie in
that screenshot.
In that screenshot.
People should know also this isn't like we're not describing someone as David Bowie. It really is David Bowie working with David Cage in one of the ugliest early 3D games you've ever seen.
It was awful, and I remember being so excited about it. And then I played the demo, and it was just unbelievable.
Is that a strip club?
It's such bollocks.
Yeah,
it's absolute rubbish.
Okay, so ignoring this one, you like David Cage's work.
I like David Cage's work, and you know the classic sort of the opinion about David Cage is as great as games are great until the last third when they just become
explode,
fucking stupid. But this is, bear in mind I haven't actually got to the last third of it, but this feels like
is it it's not a David Cage game?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But it feels very much like one, but like, as I say, just one that is a bit more sensible and about how it does things. And so the setup is it's B-movie horror, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so it's a teenage slasher flick. They're all in a house in the woods, and it's all very like the game is going out of its way to say we know these are tropes, and this is the point.
It's called Until Dawn.
Until Dawn, yeah.
And what's it on?
PS4.
Oh, I'm totally getting this.
PS4 exclusive. It is really. It's got. So it's a collection of scenes essentially. It's episodic to a point. You know, you get a recap when you go back into it.
But it's all like one thing.
Yes, yeah. But there's something brilliant about it. Like all the sort of 8 teenagers that are in this big house in the woods have like relationship stats with each other.
I love that stuff. I don't know why.
It's
you
really
love
great.
Quantifying human feelings.
Yeah,
I do.
but it's backed up by like some amazing digital acting. Like really, sort of technically, it's incredibly good in terms of the facial animation because it can really sell that stuff. Like if you're being told by the game that this person hates that person, you can actually tell when they talk to each other.
Oh,
like
awesome.
you know, and
I guess because it's one environment, they can really afford to double down on the facial
exactly,
animation and stuff.
Yeah. And people keep getting themselves into situations, even though you try and steer them away from it, where like, you know, 2 of them go off on their own to turn on a generator.
So who are you in this game? Are you some kind of like ghostly manager?
No, you are depending on what point of the game you are. It flips between each character.
Okay.
So it's great actually because you know you're playing one character and then the scene switches and you're playing this other character, And then the person you were just playing might come into the scene and do something you'd never have done. So there's this frustration where you're just like,
why would you do that?
I don't want you to be in control of yourself because I know you're a dick now. But, you know, things that they do kind of feed off things that you've told them to do. And there's like, it's just really good. It's really good.
So this is an episodic style thing, like, or is it a full game?
It's a full game. It's like a full. I think it's like a 10-hour game. But it's presented episodically. So there's like each chapter. It's like presented as if it's a TV show.
I can't remember the last time we did a Daft Souls and someone described something and I'm like, shit, what? How did I miss this? Yeah. Can I get it?
Well, again, if it is another Sony PS4 exclusive, I'm noticing a pattern here. Whenever there are exclusive games on the PS4. They just end up being really good, and I've never heard of them. There's something really wrong with
Sony needs to step up their marketing, I think, because Helldiver's almost
Helldiver's almost completely messed me as well. It's brilliant.
It's top-down Destiny. It's fucking.
There's so much good stuff going on.
Why would you not push that?
I'm going to check this out. I'm
Until Dawn is so good. Like I'm probably words aren't working for me right now, but it is like a blend of Heavy Rain and The Sims and Scream.
Oh man, I would so play that.
Is it linear or is it kind of a bit like fruity? Well, that's not the word, but you know what I mean. Like,
it's linear in the sense that there are certain things that definitely happen, or there are certain the characters are in certain places at certain times, but. Within that, your interactions with people, the decisions you make, there's a lot of branching points, basically.
Interesting.
So I think you can go through the game without any of your people dying. Depending on what sort of situations you make. I think that's the case.
So it's one long Mass Effect suicide mission with horny teens?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Wow.
And they are all trying to fuck each other as well. Like, there's this
how have I not heard of this?
Constant sexual tension all the way through.
This is so up my alley.
It's really, really good. And
we've now built it up too much. I'm going to go home and be like, this is only like decent.
This is only a 7. But no, I was so surprised.
I'll be livid if it is like I will be really angry if it is only a 7 because Jesus.
But no, we did the first couple of chapters of it for a video today for 2 Cowards actually, and we decided while recording that video, it's like we're going to do this until we finish it because we both really, really enjoyed it. Neither of us like games like that, but it's so good and it's so clever the way it does things. And if you look at the development history of it as well, like it started off as a PlayStation Move exclusive on the PS3, it was moved over to PS4, then they dropped the Move requirement, and it's been through so many sort of turbulent changes as a product. I thought, like knowing that history, I thought it's going to be terrible. But it's actually, they've really...
Well, that's the thing is, it could go one of two ways. Either they just end up having looked at it for so long that they've got no idea if it's good or not, and it often isn't. Or it ends up having so many iterations and tweaks that actually they've got something... Because they've had the luxury to spend such a long time designing something that actually when it happens, it's just so strong. Like, and I often think that's why you occasionally have like cool surprises at the start of generations around this time or like a bit earlier. Because there's these things that have basically been on the back burner for a long time and they go... Well, let's just get it out. And then often it means you get a mixture of stuff which is just rubbish because there was a reason it never got out the door in the first place. But other times, like, just have weird turns of events, companies get bought out, companies solve, and things just get shuffled around and put on back burners indefinitely.
On this exact topic, people should definitely go back a couple of episodes, was it? And listen to the Daft Souls about PlayStation Home if they haven't already. Yeah. Keza published a great article on that in Kotaku UK, and the history of how that game came about and how it ultimately ended up being secretly succul is like one of my favourite things we've ever done on this cast.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic story. It's really cool.
I've not read her article on it yet. But I'm really interested
just listen
in
to the podcast. It's quicker.
But I funnily enough, I remember attending a talk in Dundee by a guy called Kirk something, but he was a developer, not of Home, but one of the little companies that was making stuff in Home.
Yeah,
and he was like, by the way, we're making fuckloads of money and nobody knows.
Yeah,
like I remember him saying this about it must have been 6-7 years ago. And I'm sitting there like, but how? This must be a lie. You must be lying to me.
Must be laundering money.
And then, I remember just thinking, you're talking shite, mate. And I thought, he's just bigging up his fucking shitty business model or whatever. And then, like, years later, Keza comes out with this article. It's like, oh no, by the way, this thing made a lot of fucking money for a lot of people. and nobody knows. And I'm
Nobody
like,
knew about
holy
it.
shit, it was true. Like it was a bit of a red pill moment, to be honest.
Wow.
Like, fuck, I should have made stuff in home.
that was the bubble, man.
Yeah.
Buy Jim's cat toy. Come to jimshomethings.com. In another universe, you're rolling around in a big jacuzzi full of pound coins.
It's not too late. Second Life is just taking off, man. You can get you can make your little...
Jim's Sex Dungeons. Custom made for you.
Well, custom sex.
It's been an incredibly exciting episode of Dark Souls. Thank you very much for joining us, Jim. Have you got anything particular you'd like people to watch at the moment? Anything you've done recently you'd like people to check out? Other than the excellent Miller Report, which continues to be brilliant.
Thank you very much. Just the Miller Report. Just keep watching the Miller Report, because that is my baby. And it's also Simon's baby, but it's basically my baby.
Yeah. How are people going to find this incredibly amazing, aggressive man interviewing poor developers?
If they go to youtube.com/videogamertv, the Miller Report and the ancillary stuff that feeds off from Miller Report, because we've got like a regular list feature that is also a massive piss take and is basically in the Miller Report universe. This is, oh god,
it's just no, it's fine.
But yeah, everything, most of the stuff we do, unless we're sitting down talking about a game and we sound a bit serious, everything on the channel now is like
real.
In this fictional kind of.
And I really like
universe.
that, because it was that. It's a weird thing, because it's like, obviously, I used to be a video gamer a while ago, and it was kind of a difficult thing in the fact that I shaped so much of what the channel was about based on things that I liked. I just sort of went off on my own like a mad nomad. And because the channel at that point was sort of nothing, nobody cared. They were like, just do what you want with it. But after I left, it was weird, because it was this thing of when you've made something so much about like your personality and who you are, your influences. But I love now that this invented universe is clearly just so much rooted in the fact that both you and Simon really like wrestling. And
well, it's partly it's like him really liking wrestling and me really liking Babylon 5 and stuff like that. So it's like those universes collide a bit, right? Because wrestling's all. Wrestling and science fiction fans are basically the same people. But yeah, I
just love that it's extending universe of stupid characters that are so borderline possibly real that idiots think they are real.
A lot of people think like people are still angry with Miller for being rude to developers.
I know,
and stuff. And
it's mad.
Like, you don't think that we got them to sign off on this? We went to their fucking office. Like, how do you think we got in?
But yeah, this is all sounding mad, then the Miller Report is basically Simon Miller, who used to be, used to work with a video gamer, big dude. God, he's a big man. Just going around being an angry dickhead. But in a very amusing way.
Yeah.
Just being endlessly obsessed with Gears of War and nothing else. And it's very fun.
I love... basically, we love making it, and we also love that like everyone who sees it seems to be just really get behind it, and that's been really nice to see, because it's not often that you go to an industry event or whatever, and people from other publications are coming over and saying, by the way, that thing you do is really great.
Yeah,
because you're supposed to be kind of like fucking fuck you, GameSpot, or whatever, but it's kind of, people really like it, and it's weird because it's just about a bald man shouting at people.
Well, that's the dream, really. If you can monetize a bald man shouting at people, that's the internet done, isn't it?
Well, exactly. That's Harry Hill, I guess, right? So.
Yeah. I love Harry Hill.
But yeah, well, thank you very much. But yeah, do go watch it.
Do. And also, obviously, you can check out our stuff, me and Quinn's. If you missed last week's episode, we are now Cool Ghosts, with other people coming in, trying to wrestle down some other people to do some bits and bobs for us on the fly. This week, as I say, I'll have a video about Big Pharma, and last week we had
Euler surfers.
Or
Euler surfing. I'm not decided yet. Yeah, that's going to be a nice roundup of some of the weirdest stuff topping the charts in Steam.
That should be a lot of fun to go and watch.
Lightning fast little analyses of weird stuff.
And obviously on the fly at the moment, I'm finishing up pretty soon probably my little play of The Swindle, which is a fun thing to watch if you want to watch me just shouting and swearing, really. I try not to shout too much, but God, it's very frustrating. And also, if you just want some kind of passive-aggressive couple stuff, then Hellduffers is just basically me and you getting increasingly stressed with each other because you're running me over with a vehicle, or I'm dropping bombs on your heads.
It's very amusing, like especially in that game when somebody just drops grenades and stuff and everyone dies.
We started off doing like comedy, passive aggressive, and now it's just real. Why did you do that? What was that?
Just Matt, just wondering why did you get in the turret? Because that's
It's funny. We just recorded one today, and when you just go to any point in the timeline, it's just like what was. It's like that's just like an hour of stress and failure. So if that sounds like something you'd like, then you're a strange person. But you can look at that.
Can I just ask before we finish up? Are you planning to do anything else with the mad, frankly fucking best in the business VHS stuff that you do? Because like when you make something look like, you're really good at making something genuinely look like it was made 30 years ago. Like I've tried to do it as well as you do, and it doesn't, like it's all right, but it doesn't.
The main trick is the audio. The main trick
absolutely. I mean the audio sells it, but it's like there was an app that came out recently for the iPhone where it's designed to make your iPhone camera work like a 90s camcorder. Totally, you've been framed with the static, the warping, the chromatic aberration, the little date in the corner and everything. And I was like, this is a Matt Lee's skit generator. This is what
I'm sure I will. I mean, I bought those filters and some stuff, so I'm going to keep using them. I don't really know. I mean, at the moment, the thing we're doing at the moment with Cool Ghosts is we're having a variety of sort of like Let's Play stuff going on every week, and then we've got a kind of a chunky video every week, either from me or Quinns or a combination. But I think once we find our feet with it, it's, at the moment I'm playing some stuff and I'm making some games make some videos about stuff we're playing, but I know what I'm like, and I go through waves. I'll have waves where I'm just like making videos about, this game is really interesting because of this, but then I'll just have a month where I just go off the rocker and just make strange things.
Is there anything I can do to like encourage that, to push you more towards the VHS filter?
I don't know. I think now we've got like the ability to collaborate a bit better. I'm hoping that it's just going to allow me the time to actually like just write more jokes and things, to blend the two a bit more. So you'll have me talking about games like with Big Pharma, the video which is going up this week. It's going to have like a combination of I'm going to tell you about the game, but also it's going to have some stupid skits and some fun stuff in it. I'm excited. But if you want to see more, then you can go to coolghost.net, and we've already got a really nice community there of people talking about the Daft Souls podcast and also other things. So I definitely recommend checking out. And if you really love Daft Souls and you want to support the podcast, you can do so by going to patreon.com/coolghosts. But it's been an amazing episode, and I'm going to stop now because I want to play Metal Gear Solid 5 and I want to download Until Dawn.
Let's go home and play some fucking video games.
Thank you very much for joining us. Bye.
Bye.